We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. I got an NVIDIA Shield. I like it. That's my review.
Oh, I was supposed to review that TV today. I forgot.
That's okay. We got lots of questions, so no shortage of content.
That's fine. I know. Believe me, I know. I saw the questions. They're forever.
Yep.
Forever questions. I'm running a little late today, Rob, because
we are.
I lost a cable by accidentally setting it down at the wrong side. I guess I took it with my power cord over to plug in the power cord, and it dropped.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't find it for 30 minutes.
30 minutes, okay.
Well, it felt like 30 minutes. It might have been 5, but it was somewhere in that vicinity. It was very just, I was like, you know, to my eldest son, what did you do with my cable? He's like, I didn't see any cable.
Now, this is a cable to do with your podcasting setup, not your home theater.
Yeah, it's just a USB cable, man, to power the external DAC.
Yep.
Connect it to the, actually it doesn't power it, connect it to the computer. Can't lose that. All right, this is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. You can go to www.avrant.com, leave us a comment there. I think that might be broken.
Could be. I don't know. It's all right.
I can't find the register button anymore on the website. It seems to have disappeared. So
all sorts of fun stuff going on over at WordPress there.
You know, it's just stupid. Anyways, I fixed it and then it unfixed itself. So I don't care that much, because you can contact us on Facebook at facebook.com/avrantpodcast, youtube.com/avrant. That's also broken. YouTube is. But not because of the service, which is also broken, but because of the people.
Oh, I see. Okay. I get what you mean.
Commenters.
We've had some nice comments recently, so that's...
Have we?
I'm fine with that.
That's good.
Maybe it was just the one guy under many names, the one person that I got rid of.
That one dude? He was real mad.
We still got the thumbs down, so that's good. At least that can...
Oh, yeah. Let's keep it up. One thumb down at a time. I wish we could be like Primus. You know, the band Primus.
Oh, the band.
Their fans all yell, "Primus sucks," and it's sort of a rallying call. But you can't thumbs down us as like a subverted thumbs up, because YouTube will be like, "Oh, this sucks. I'm not showing it to anybody ever." Right. So don't do that. And then, you know, just keep the thumbs up. All right. You can reach us directly. Rob at avrant.com. His Twitter is at FirstReflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. My Twitter is at avrant_Tom. I want to thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, all you have to do is support the podcast in some way. One way that many people are doing it, 62 to be exact, are over at patreon.com. They are signing up for Patreon, which allows them to take a monthly donation from their account and give most of it to us, or part of it to us. I'm not really sure how much of it comes to us.
I think most. I mean, most technically means more than 50%, and it's more than 50% of your donation that makes it to us, so it's most.
Yeah. So we want to thank our 62 patrons, including John S, who told us that he was becoming a patron. So thank you, John, and your 61 friends.
Yeah, that's patreon.com/avrantpodcast if you'd like to sign up. Thanks so much to our 62 patrons, and John S, thank you for being one of them.
That's right. All right, got some comments, or in the news here, I guess. We got news.
Well, should just mention, you can come to avrant.com if you'd like to make a one-time donation. We didn't have any this week, but if you'd like to, then that's the place to come. Also, I noticed you cleaned up the website a little bit, made it so it wasn't like every entry on the front page was super long.
It was getting a little ridiculous.
It was getting a little ridiculous, but that's because I'm putting the full show notes, or I'm writing them and handing them to Tom, and then he posts it on the website. That's how that goes. But yeah, if you'd like to see the full show notes with links to everything, because the ones that you see on the YouTube video, they don't have all the links, because I'm not putting in all those links manually. That's too much.
Copy paste it.
You can't copy paste it. You have to put it all in manually. And nuts to that, it takes me enough time every week as it is. So if you'd like the links to the things that we talk about, please come to avrant.com. It's got the full show notes with the times and the links. It's good.
Not some sort of scheme to get more traffic to our website or something.
No.
I literally do not care.
This is trying to take up as little time as possible and get everything done. So
that's right.
There you go.
When this becomes a full-time job, we'll post links everywhere.
That's right.
When Rob finally can spend with the McMansion money to get a 400 square foot apartment in the Vancouver greater area, then and only then will there be links in the show notes on the YouTube channel. All right. Nathan let us know that miniDSP... I'm going to have to get water. I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, I don't need water. Water's for the weak. I'm weak. Nathan, miniDSP has released a new product, that SHD, or Streaming HD Series. It should be SHDS. It should be. Okay. It's 4 words, 4 things. It's aimed at 2-channel enthusiasts who want Dirac live room correction and high-quality streaming. Let me tell you, I believe those are 2 different people.
Yeah, the number of people who are 2-channel enthusiasts who want room correction of any kind, well, maybe it's growing. I mean, miniDSP knows this stuff.
I hope so.
Maybe that crowd is growing.
I think that the Venn diagram of that is the middle part, not as big as maybe miniDSP would like. If they had asked me beforehand, I'd be like, I don't know, guys.
I'm sure it's like someone there at the company wanted it, so they made it.
Yeah. Oh, that's fine. I mean, I don't care if they sell none of them, but for $1,200 is what this thing's going to cost. The SHD, which, by the way, I hate that. Just give it a name. HSD.
That's the name. What am I going to do? You look for it on their website, that's what it's called.
Has all the features of a miniDSP 2x4 and for setting crossovers and filters, but it adds more input and output types, XLR and AES ABU, which is popular not here, but I believe in Europe, and I know they had it in Australia.
I mean, it's like it uses an XLR plug, but it's for a digital signal. So
right. It adds Dirac live room correction, and it has an ARM, ARM. Did you say ARM? Do we say ARM?
Yeah, just say ARM because it's an acronym. The initials spell out a thing we can say, so it's an acronym.
Processor built in to run Volumio, whatever. And it handles most of the popular streaming services. The price includes a UMIC 1 measurement microphone, a smaller digital-only SHD Studio. So you can't have SHDS because that would be Series and Studio. It's too many S's. Should have an X somewhere in it.
Of course.
It's that's going to come. The Studio one, I guess, the smaller digital only will come in September. So yay for that.
Yep.
All right.
New product. Check it out if you're a 2-channel enthusiast and you're like, I want a processor that has room correction, but it only does 2-channel, but I still want to be able to create my own crossover if I want to add subwoofers and all that stuff. Then this is a way to do it. It's $1,200, but it's got the streamer built in. So
you've got my brain is saying there's 2 possible solutions to this. One, buy it now before they decide that this is not going to be a viable product and take it off the market.
Okay.
Or wait and see if you can get it on sale before they take it off the market.
Or if you're doing everything digitally, the Studio should be less. I think it's going to be less expensive. It's going to be smaller and it's going to be digital only, but sometimes digital only, they make it more expensive. I don't know. I don't know yet. They didn't say what the price is.
I guess the concern is it's probably going to end up a little bit like an Oppo is right now. Whereas when they discontinue this thing, all the 15 or so people who missed out are going to be like, wait, I wanted that, and we're like, oh, you can get on the eBay for like $3,000. So stock up on them now. I guess it's an investment. HDMI LLC announced new awfulness. I'm guessing. I haven't read this yet. That's new certification and compliance testing specifications. First, they now have a certification program for premium high-speed active HDMI cables. So look for the fancy hologram sticker when shopping for 18 gigabits per second active HDMI cables now. And second, some folks got excited because HDMI LLC announced an HDMI 2.1 compliance test specification, leading some people to believe that HDMI 2.1 chipsets might be ready for actual products soon. But the new compliance test is only for eARC. No one's going to use that. Several products have promised eARC will get added via firmware update. So this new testing specification, in case that might be coming in the not too distant future, but full HDMI 2.1 implementation is still a ways away.
Yeah, it was kind of funny to see, new HDMI 2.1 compliance testing, and I was like, oh, right, it's around the corner, it's on its way, and then like, this is only for eARC. That's all it's for.
Why would you be excited for this? And every time they do this, I'm like, please take your time.
It is all over YouTube. Every like TV that comes out, AV receiver video in the comments, everyone's like, where's the HDMI 2.1? I'm like, what do you even need / want it for? What for? What are you going to use it for?
Stop it.
I mean, the variable refresh rate, that is the only thing I can think of. And maybe it is just gamers on YouTube who are the only ones who are talking about variable refresh rate, which Samsung has already shown you can do on HDMI 2.0, and Xbox is already doing it. So you don't really need HDMI 2.1 bandwidth for all of this stuff. But anyway, but yeah, I'm happy to see the certification now applying to active HDMI cables, because before it was only passive, straight copper wire HDMI cables that could get certified, and now active ones like Monoprice's Dynamic View or the new Series 3 from Blue Jeans Cable, these active ones that have a chip built in, they can now get properly certified as passing the full 18 gigabits per second. So that's good.
Yeah. So right before this podcast, when I was setting up, I said to myself, I'm having such a hard time getting a full white background behind me. I wish I could sit a little bit closer to my screen, but I can't because my center channel is here.
Okay.
Right? Like literally my chair is pushed right up to my center channel, which is on a stand on the ground. And I thought to myself, there's like 2 extra inches behind this thing. Why is it so far forward? I'll just move it back a little bit. I'm like, what? The angle doesn't look quite right. Let me adjust the angle. And I thought to myself, oh my God, it's going to be midnight when this podcast is over and you're finally done with it. And you're going to have to run Odyssey again.
Yep.
Because there's no way that you're going to sit here in this room and not have run Odyssey again. It's just not going to happen. I'm like, what have you done, you fool? So
you touched something.
I touched it. I also forgot to plug my computer in, so I will be both getting water and plugging in my computer at some point. We're at 79% right now, just so you know. Alan, these are comments from our listeners. Alex wanted to share a correction.
Where did Alex come from?
I don't know.
You said Alan and then immediately switched to Alex. How does that happen?
I don't know. It was a frog in my throat. Wanted to share a correction. You see, that's why I need the water. So I say Alan instead of Alex. Let's see. That's what you heard. We've said a few times in the podcast that the density of the air in a particular room or location can have a small effect on the speed of sound. Have we said that?
I've certainly mentioned it in passing. I've said
I don't think I would have said that.
Things can be different based on... I've
been teaching the science to kids for the last 5 years, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have said that. But if you said it,
I have said it in passing. I know I have. I am guilty.
I did not catch it, and I did not correct you.
Gotcha.
And that's right. I probably wasn't listening. He says that isn't quite right. For any given gas or mixture of gases like air, the equations for figuring out the speed of sound in that gas are such that the only significant variables end up being the composition of the gas itself and the temperature. So humidity levels have an effect, a very small one, and temperature has an effect, but interestingly, not air pressure nor density. So just a correction to the exact words that we were using to help us make a more accurate statement. So yay for that.
Yep, okay. I appreciate that. If you come to avrant.com, there's a link to an actual calculator, which humorously, they stuck air pressure in there as one of the variables you can change. But of course, no matter what you put in there, it doesn't change the speed of sound. And then they explain below, they're like, yeah, that doesn't make a difference. So,
but we know if we don't put it in here, somebody's going to complain. Welcome to the world of AV, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, if you take away a DSP, somebody's going to call Yamaha and say, what happened to our rock arena? That's all I ever watched on.
But it is kind of fun if you go through the derivations of the equations, because, density is in there when you're calculating speed of sound through a medium. So it is one of the variables, but in the instance of gases, the density and the air pressure end up on opposite sides of the division, and they go hand in hand. They both go up and down at the same time, so they cancel each other out in the equation, and they end up having no effect at all. And then, temperature has an effect, and of course, the composition of the gas itself has a very, very small effect in the case of air and air humidity.
Okay. Brandon says that we're spot on with our guesses as to why his Aperion Veris 2 Grand Center was sounding oddly hollow and bright. His fireplace does have an opening, so he raised the speaker a bit so that it's no longer in front of that opening. He also had to run Odyssey again. Welcome to my world. And he had to use an editor app, and it turns out the results that had never uploaded to his receiver. Now I'm wondering if I uploaded to my receiver. So he was using the old correction that was for his golden ear speakers, which was significantly different. With those things fixed, all as well. So yay, don't have to spend any money.
That's right.
Tara on Twitter wanted to let everyone know that when using Make MKV, if you go to the Advanced tab in the preferences, you can rewrite which audio formats have a check mark next to them by default, rather than having to manually select, say, the lossless audio track every time. There's a Make MKV forum thread about changing default audio tracks, and the second post in that thread has all the necessary instructions for what you will need to type. Well, you have to type it?
You got to type it in.
Oh, it's like a code thing? It's like
a little bit.
It's like DOS?
Yeah, kind of similar to a command line type of thing that you punch in there. Yeah, so it's not like a series of check marks that you just get to put in the Advanced tab. A little more involved than that, but the instructions are all there. So if you can follow the instructions, you can do this, and there you go. Thank you. I wasn't using that, and I will from now on. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just have to share this because I sometimes when you talk, I scan my email to see if there's anything interesting in there, and
so involved.
Sounds real bad.
It does.
But I got this email from somebody, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know, it sounds like, I know it's a marketing email. They're trying to sell me something, right? But I was like, okay, well, they may actually be applicable. And I mean, I'm not against a little bit of somebody marketing to me. That's nice. I got down to, I just read your page here. It's AVRant number 149. I'm like, no, you didn't. Shut up. No, you didn't. You bot. All right, Jorge. Question from last week, of which probably all of the questions we answer today will be from last week.
Hopefully we'll get a few from this week. Not all of these are super long, so we'll see what we can do. But here we go.
Jorge says he discovered AVRant about 8 months ago, and he loves that it feels like hanging out with some nerdy AV friends when he listens each week, so he happily signed up at Patreon. So thank you, Jorge. Yeah, I think nerdy's okay, right? We can say Absolutely. Nerdy now. It's not just no longer, it's not like geeky, nerdy, all that stuff is okay now.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It used to be an insult, and it's no longer like Revenge of the Nerds. That movie doesn't even make any sense to anybody anymore.
No, nerds kind of rule the world at this point. I mean...
Yeah. I mean, they always kind of did, but whatever. All right, he bought a 55-inch TLC P Series TV for his living room last year, and he's been very happy with it. So when it came time to upgrade the TV in his home theater, he says it was a no-brainer, and he went for the 65-inch TLC 6 Series. And he loves that TCL, whatever, and he loves that TV too. What did I say?
TLC.
I am.
It's not tender loving care.
It's going to be a bad. I'm just telling you.
I know.
I did not sleep well last night. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that right now. It didn't happen. I thought it was okay. I tried to take a nap today. It didn't happen. He likes the built-in Roku with its large selection of streaming apps, but mostly he and his family use Plex. He has a large disc collection that he has backed up on his Plex server, and the Plex app for the TCL TVs work very nicely. But now he's getting into Ultra HD Blu-rays, and he plans to add a Denon X4400H to his setup to expand the Atmos, so he wants to know about the audio side of things. He's read conflicting answers about what the TCL TVs can output, either via HDMI-ARC or using the optical audio output. If he's backing up Ultra HD Blu-rays and getting an X4400H, he wants the full lossless Atmos and DTS experience, of course, but can he get that using just the TCL TV's built-in Plex app, or we need something else? What's the scoop? I don't think he's going to be able to get the full lossless audio from the TCL over ARC down to the receiver. I don't think that's a thing that can happen.
That is correct, Tom. Yeah, so the optical audio output, we can begin there. That is SPDIF. That's the Sony Philips digital interface. It has limited bandwidth. The most it can do in uncompressed is 2-channel, so 2-channel PCM is the most it can send. Can't send any more than 2-channel. And for bitstream output, could only do Dolby Digital 5.1, Dolby Digital Plus 5.1, or DTS. What do you can say something, you know?
No. I didn't think you were looking at me.
You're here so you can talk. Bizarro.
I didn't think you were looking at me. I was like, he doesn't know I left.
You didn't really leave. You plugged in a cord. You didn't even get your water.
But I thought you were looking at, like, I don't look at you. I can't see you. I'm looking at the questions. I thought you were looking at the questions.
No. Anyway,
wow.
That is the optical audio output. And HDMI audio return channel has the exact same limitations. It sends the exact same things that an optical SPDIF connection can send. So you cannot send full lossless True HD or DTS HD master audio. Therefore, if you've backed up Ultra HD Blu-rays with the full lossless versions of Atmos and DTS:X, cannot send those. That is actually what eARC is going to be about, is being able to send full lossless bitstream audio, higher bandwidth audio out of a television, say, but that TCL has no announced plans to ever support eARC.
That was going to be my next question, whether or not they had any plans about that. But
so, yeah, if you want to play Ultra HD Blu-rays from Plex, from backups that you've made, you will need an external device, and the one I would highly recommend is the NVIDIA Shield, because that's the one that can do it.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's the only one I'm aware of that can do it, even though something like an Xbox One is entirely hardware capable of doing it. The Plex app doesn't do it yet, and we don't know if the Apple TV 4K is going to support lossless bitstream output. We know it's going to support Atmos in the Dolby Digital Plus lossy form.
I would be very surprised if Apple did that.
Well, actually, when we come to the if we get to the question about the Xbox audio,
oh my God, Joel, if we get to that question, you're gonna hear the rant and the AVRant's coming out.
I am fearing that the Apple TV 4K is probably going to do things the same way, where it's decoding it internally and then re-encoding it before it outputs. I suspect that's how the Apple TV 4K is going to do things. So, simple answer: you need an NVIDIA Shield.
Jason has an Axiom EP500 sub. He's also got dual SVS PC2000 subwoofers for a different room, and it was his wife who said to buy them because she liked the way they look. She's a quality woman. Keep a hold of her. The amp in this Axiom sub died. It's an older version, so Axiom said it would cost $700 for a replacement amp because of course they did. If you were going to spend that much, you just replace the EP500 with another PC2000. I 100% agree with that. So before he does that, is there a different amplifier he could buy that would get his EP500 working again? Obviously, one that costs a lot less. Okay, so there are external amps that you could theoretically use.
Sure, but then how are you? I guess you can just splice the speaker wire output of an external amp to the leads that go directly onto the driver.
So in my mind, the way this works is that you just disconnect the amp that's in there, because inside the driver, if I remember correctly, in there is there's like a speaker wire that comes out from the driver and connects to the outside of a box that the plate amp is in. So you would just take that wire, disconnect it from the plate amp that's inside there. The reason I'm saying this is because if you're going to do this, everything is always calculated in these things, right? So you calculate the internal volume of the box. You calculate all these things. So I mean, they may have some sort of factor as the plate of the amp has a certain rigidity, the front fascia. I
seriously doubt they took that much into consideration.
I know they could have, though, but the idea here is that the easiest way is it's EP500, unless it's a real old one, unless it's a real new one. I think the older ones all had that slot port. You just have a wire coming out that slot port.
Feed the wire out of the slot port.
Just right out the slot port, man. And then you damp the wire so that it doesn't make noise as it vibrates.
I guess that's not utterly impossible, At which point, any 500-watt amplifier, which you could easily pick up at Parts Express, you can get one from Behringer or get one from, Crown or any company like that. Okay,
So I looked into all that stuff, but my thought here is that there is more than just wattage coming out of that amp.
Yeah, it's a DSP amp, so there's definitely some digital signal processing going in there to try and make it very linear and to protect the driver and all that.
That's right. And we know that they had a brick wall filter at like 18, 19 hertz.
Yeah, they sure did.
If you're going to do this, you're going to have to, at the very least, have some sort of crossover mechanism within the amp itself to give you that brick wall filter at the end, because why they did it, I don't know. But it could be that they did it because the driver makes terrible noises if it tries to play anything lower than 18 hertz.
It's really just a subsonic filter, which many amplifiers that are marketed as a subwoofer amplifier will have a subsonic filter as one of the features, and you can just set the frequency at which you want that to come in, and then it's like a super steep, nearly a brick wall filter for everything below that. So that is a feature you could look for. Okay, I didn't really price out external ones because I was looking for a plate amp that could maybe
I did the same thing.
Maybe fit in there. And I found a couple. No, okay. So I have, assuming he has one that is, because they kept the same box for like 3 generations before they changed the box of the EP500. So I think I have a V2. So assuming he's got
an EP500.
Yeah, I got an EP500.
I got a V1, man. I was old school before I sold it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure mine's a V2. And so if his is something that used that same cabinet, the amplifier in the back there measures 11 3/4 inches in height by 8 inches in width. That's the actual plate part that you can see on the back. And then, of course, the cutout inside will be an inch in from all of those. So it'll be 10 3/4 inches in height and 7 inches in width for the actual opening inside. But that's pretty universal. All the plate amps give the cutout dimensions, and they all take a 1-inch perimeter around them that you mount it on. So the amplifier, the plate amplifier you could buy from Parts Express that comes closest to having all the features and it has the same wattage, because this is also a DSP amplifier that has a subsonic filter, and you could program in some EQ filters to make it more linear and all that. So it's all the same features that the EP500 has. Costs $300. Dayton Audio makes it. It is the SPA500DSP, and the 500 is referring to be at 500 watts. But it's a little bit smaller. It's 10 1/4 inches by 7 1/4 inches. So I mean, one thing, you could just feed the wires out, like Tom just said, but you could, I suppose, take out the existing amplifier, fill in that hole with, like, I don't know, what would you, MDF, I guess, right?
You would have to
fill it in with some MDF, and then mount this new, smaller in dimensions amplifier into the MDF that you just filled in the original gap with. That could theoretically work, I suppose.
I have a hard time envisioning how this is going to work. You still have to keep that back plate on there, though, I think.
Well, I mean, you're replacing the original plate with some MDF.
No, I'm saying the back box that was on the amplifier itself. Because when you took the amplifier out, there was a box. But wasn't that just to cover all the stuff inside?
Very
well could be, but it certainly changed the interior dimensions.
I see what you mean.
Of the box. I mean, you can't.
But it's a ported design. How much is that little bit of internal volume going to matter? I mean, and you have a new equalizer thing built into this Dayton, but it's $300. So I don't know. It's
$300, dude. I get another subwoofer.
I know. The other thing I was thinking you could do, if you don't want to go to the trouble of filling in the hole with MDF and then cutting the hole in that new MDF thing that you used to fill in the original hole with a slightly smaller hole so you can mount the new amp. If you don't want to do that, Dayton actually sells a metal bracket, I guess you would call it, that attaches to that specific one, the SPA500DSP, and then that allows you to attach that amplifier, well, to pretty much anything. I mean, you could actually just use it as a rack-mounted thing at that point, or you can attach it to the outside of the cabinet.
So, I gotta see this.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just a bracket. It's just a metal bracket that goes around the Dayton plate amplifier. So you could fill in the original hole, make a very small hole just for the wires to come out of it, and then, like, strap the new amplifier onto the back of the cabinet, that using this bracket.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
So it's actually like a box, almost.
Yeah.
Like basically it's a metal frame.
Yeah.
Like a picture frame, but you attach the amp to one side and you attach the bottom of it to
the outside of the cabinet of the sub. I mean, this is for, like, putting it on a completely sealed sub where you don't want to make any hole in it to house the amplifier. You can just strap the amplifier to the back of it using this bracket. So that bracket is $33. So you're up to $333. Basically half the price.
MDF and all
plus
the
MDFs, yeah. But still about half the price of what Axiom wanted to charge you. Now, there is a bash amplifier, a 500-watt bash amplifier for $230, which is 12 inches by 8 inches. It's a 1/4 of an inch larger, which I guess you could, I don't know, could you router out?
I was going to say, you can route out everything else and hope.
But it doesn't have any of the DSP stuff. So it's just a straight amplifier. I don't know, dude. How handy are you?
Yeah, that's the real question. How handy are you?
I don't have any of these that are a drop-in replacement that'll just perfectly fit.
Yeah, because doesn't Axiom design most of their own amplifiers and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Or, so I mean, it's going to be all custom to them. So of course they're going to charge you $700. They want you to buy another EP500.
Make sure that the screw mounting holes are in non-standardized places.
Right.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yep. I don't know. If you're super handy, this is doable for about half the price, or if you go with the bash amp, less than half the price. Otherwise, maybe it's just sell it for parts and be on your merry way.
All right, I forgot this dude's name already.
Or Jason.
HDMI woes. He says he's got a 2016 Vizio P Series TV. At one point, he had its HDMI board completely replaced. He's got a Marantz SR7011 that he bought from Accessories for Less, and his sources are an Oppo 203 and the Roku Ultra. He has zero issues with playing with the Oppo 203 playing until just last week. It's plugged into his Marantz. The Marantz is plugged into his Vizio, and that has worked flawlessly every time until last week when it had an audio dropout. So what does that mean? Just the audio stopped working?
Well,
or like
no, like when it's going along and then you just have silence for a little bit and then the audio comes back, like a drop. The audio got dropped for a little bit.
His Roku Ultra and sending audio via HDMI-ARC from the Vizio's built-in Chromecast back to his Marantz both result in occasional audio dropouts. And in the case of his Roku Ultra, he gets video dropouts sometimes too.
Yep.
That sucks.
It does.
So
you can see why this is annoying. That is some HDMI woes. Yeah.
He's using Blue Jeans cable HDMI cables, and they're only 6 feet long.
Yeah.
So how should you go about diagnosing the cause of the problem? He does have a firmware update for the SR7011 that he hasn't applied yet, but he thought it was just to add AirPlay to support. Any chance that that firmware could have any impact? Yes.
Yep. It's possible.
But we don't know.
We can't say for sure, but I mean, usually the firmware updates, they might list the important features, but they usually have a bunch of bug fixes in there.
I tell you, this sounds like a turn it off, turn it back on thing to me.
Well, I mean, he does, but that's, I mean, it's annoying when it's going along and you have to.
No. I'm saying like, it's like one of those things where your computer's been on for too long and it starts like chugging. So you just shut it down and, kind of reboot everything. The real problem with HDMI is that there can be a problem way up the line, and that can affect something that seems 100% unrelated.
Yeah,
that was the joy of like component video cables, optical cables. You switch the cable, if it still didn't work, you knew it was one of the sources. Right? That's not the case with HDMI.
Yeah,
you can switch the HDMI cable, and you'll be like, and it still has the same problem, but it doesn't tell you. For sure.
I mean, you could diagnose whether the Marantz is playing any role in this, because you could simply plug the Oppo or the Roku Ultra directly into your television, temporarily use your television's built-in speakers, and I don't know how long it might take, but if you never have any video or audio dropouts that way, you could suspect. We still can't say for 100% certain it's the Marantz, but you could suspect at that point that it's the Marantz.
See, to me, this sounds like a handshake issue.
It sure does. Yeah, a temporary loss of sync, and then it's reestablishing the handshake. That's definitely what it sounds like. But which device? Right now, if it's happening to all of his sources, you would suspect that it's either the Marantz or the Vizio.
TV, yeah.
But he already had the HDMI board completely replaced once. I'm like, what happened that first time that made that happen? And could it be that again? Because he's only got one cable going from the Marantz to the Vizio.
Right.
So there's only one HDMI port, and there is only one audio return channel port on the Vizio, so he has to use that one port. So if that one port on the Vizio has an issue, everything's going to have an issue.
Well, if the Oppo is never had a problem, and it starts having a problem,
right?
Let's when you're watching the Oppo, switch to a different HDMI port on your TV, just to see if something's going on there with ARC. Because really, in order for I don't know exactly how it works, but a lot of times you got to have your HDMI CC on and everything else, and therein is a
that's
black hole of problems
it sure
just
is.
waiting to happen. So, it seems to me that it's right there. To me, it's right there. It's in between the TV and the Marantz.
Yeah.
And you may never know which one it is, and it may just continue to get worse, or it may just go away again for a while.
I suppose what you could do, so I mean, one, you could for sure take the Marantz out of the signal chain entirely.
Right.
And if you never have any problems with sources connected directly into that port that has the ARC, because that's the one you're using, you plug in your Oppo to that, or your Roku, since your Roku has frequent audio dropouts. Try using that one, plug it directly into the ARC port of your Vizio. If you never have any problems there, You can suspect that it's the Marantz. It'd be tough to confirm, but if you don't have the problems, then try plugging the Marantz into a different HDMI port on the Vizio. You won't be able to use ARC at that point, but you can see if that allows your Roku and your Oppo to function properly when it's going through the Marantz into a different HDMI input on the Vizio. If that works, then you kind of know it's just that one port on the Vizio.
Wait, what is the... He's got a Roku Ultra.
Yeah.
What is it? He's got a Roku,
Oppo, and ARC. Those are his sources.
Oh, so the ARC... Okay, yeah. So you can plug the Roku directly into the Marantz, right?
Yeah, which I believe he's doing at the moment.
Okay, this is what he's doing. So he could use both of those, and that would even be a better test. I mean, if you're going... You could plug the Roku directly into the TV, plug the Roku into the Marantz, into the Oppo.
Oh, yeah.
And then plug the Oppo directly into the TV. See how that goes. You know, use both of them.
And I mean, we can't even... I mean, Blue Jeans cable, we trust them, but they can still be damaged.
Yeah.
And if it is the one cable going between your Marantz and the Vizio that got damaged, then that's going to cause problems for everything, right? Right. It is tough. It's tough to... I hate this troubleshooting stuff, but the only thing you can do is be methodical, go one at a time, and try to isolate things. That is the only way you can troubleshoot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's HDMI CC. All right, Andrew on Facebook. If we were to recommend an AV receiver for a non-Atmos setup, but maybe with an eye towards a higher tier of Odyssey with dual subwoofer corrections, what would we recommend? What we're going to recommend is, I'm probably going to guess the X3300 or whatever the heck it is, because even though it has Atmos, no one says you have to use it.
That's right.
And it's got the best, that's the lowest price for the best Odyssey.
That is right.
And that's what you're asking for. So just because your car has four-wheel drive doesn't mean that you have to use the four-wheel drive. Also doesn't mean that you don't buy the car because it has the four-wheel drive. You still wanted whatever the rest of the thing is that it had that you wanted. So that's what we're...
So today, as we're recording this, it'll be the X3400H now. It's down to $500 at Accessories for Less, the same price the 3300W got down to. Don't have any stock of the 3300Ws anymore, but that's okay, because there's the 3400H at the same price now. So yeah, 3400H, that'd be the one I'd go for sure.
He was using Energy Take classic satellite speakers in a surround back position, but he wasn't all that impressed. He ditched them for just one pair of Paradigm ADP-170 bipole speakers, and he has really enjoyed those. So what should he use to expand to 7 speakers again? He's got deals available to him for Klipsch Synergy B3 bipoles, which actually lists similar efficiency to his Paradigm monitors, so not a big efficiency mismatch. ADP-170, you know which one he wants to buy, right? ADP-170 V4 bipoles. His ADP-170s are the newer V5s, but it probably doesn't make that much of a difference. Or a monopole PSB Alpha 1s. Which of those we would recommend for the surround backs? The PSBs.
I mean, surround backs are supposed to be monopoles. That's what they're supposed to be.
So those are out of the ones that you gave us 2 bipoles and 1 monopole. Surround backs are supposed to be monopoles, and we recommend the surround back.
And PSB and Paradigm are certainly close enough in timbre that it would be no problem deploying them as surround backs, because it doesn't matter too much back there. I wouldn't go for the Klipsch. I never liked the Synergy series full stop, and then if anything is going to be sound different enough, even behind you, it's going to be Klipsch versus Paradigm, so I wouldn't go for that. Now, bipoles behind you, that's not the end of the world.
No.
I mean, bipole is at least it's not a dipole, so you're not getting the super diffuse null type of effect. It's just a very, very wide dispersion speaker. But surround backs are supposed to be monopoles. That's what everything has always recommended, and the PSBs are certainly close enough. So yeah,
these days everything's supposed to be monopole. I mean, there's
well, these days I guess so.
Yeah, but that's fine. Biv on Facebook. Biv wants a nice headphone setup to use in his bedroom. He has a headphone amp, but it's just an amp, no DAC built in. He's looking for a CD player. Should he go for a used audiophile CD player or just get a Blu-ray player? Will there be any difference in the DACs or the overall sound quality? There shouldn't be. I mean, DAC is a very mature... It's a very mature technology.
But the line outs, because you're just talking about the left and right red and white RCA jacks.
Right, because that's what you'll be feeding into your headphone amp. Those are the things that you have to worry about being noisy.
Yeah.
And that's not, I wouldn't worry about the DAC. I would worry about the noise floor and stuff like that.
Because some of these cheap DVD players and stuff, they'll function, they'll play a CD just fine, and sound will certainly come out of those red and white jacks. But much like the headphone jack output on the front of a computer, they can be noisy. We can't promise that there'll be no difference in sound from a player that was built with an eye towards having those line outputs be clean. Versus one that's just using the cheapest parts they could possibly find.
Does that mean that you need to go buy like a Oppo BDP Tool 5 or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't. And the people who buy those things are really wanting to have, the top of the line, best of the best of everything. And that's great. But in your situation, you could probably get away with quite a few reputable Blu-ray players or older CD players that are out there. You just have to read reviews and shop around. This to me is a fun project.
I suppose.
I would look around and see what I saw, read some reviews and see the prices.
But I'm assuming if he's asking, he doesn't want to spend all that time. Otherwise,
I'm just saying,
what he'd be doing. So, I'll first say my favorite player to recommend in general is Sony's X800 Ultra HD Blu-ray player, because it's a universal disc player. So if you have any interest in playing SACDs or DVD audio discs in addition to CDs, and heck, you could play concert Blu-rays and concert Ultra HD Blu-rays now as well, since it's a universal player to play all the discs. And given the price is about $225 these days, you can find the X800. I like recommending that, but maybe that's more than you wanted to spend if the only thing you want to play is CDs. Now, I guess maybe there's other companies out there still doing it, but the one I know is still putting out actual CD players. Now, I'm thinking CD player, dedicated CD player. There's a few things I want. I want it to have a front display, because I'm guessing this isn't a super complicated setup. And I would like it to not be noisy in operation. And then I want it to have clean RCA outputs, right? TEAC is still building CD players that meet all of those criteria. And they have a reasonably priced one for about $130. $139 on Amazon right now. They're $140. So, it's got the front display, nice build quality. It's not noisy when it's spinning the disc, and it has clean outputs. Those are things. And $140 to me is a kind of reasonable price, for a dedicated CD player. So I'd recommend either that or an X800 from Sony.
That sounds good. I heard my children talking, which means I have to go find them and tell them to go to bed. So I will read this question and I will go, oh my God, how long is this question? All right, it's not that bad. Corey is asking on behalf of a friend of a friend. So the information that has been provided to Corey is limited and incomplete. And the friend of the friend is probably not going to take the advice anyway, so wasting everybody's time. But here we go. But he's hoping we might be able to offer a few thoughts anyways. This friend of a friend got a quote from an installer. Mistake number one. He wants to install a 6-zone whole house audio system that includes a 7.1 AV receiver in one room, a sound bar in another room, and installing speakers in 3 other rooms, and then a pair of speakers outside for the backyard. The quote includes all of that except for the outdoor speakers, as well as an equipment rack and some networking equipment. Upon first glance, Corey thinks everything looks overpriced. Corey is right. All this stuff is Speakercraft. That's because they like to make money there, because Speakercraft has amazing margins.
That's right.
You go to Cedia, they have big banners that say, we have the best margins. If you don't know what a margin is, it's what they tell you it costs versus what they sell it to the dealer costs.
It's the profit. The profit is the margin, yes.
All the audio stuff is Speakercraft. And by the way, I don't care that they have good margins, and their speakers are fine. They're perfectly serviceable. They will make noise.
They make sound.
I'm not saying that they make sound.
They're no fan of them.
Hey, most of the people who get Speakercraft think they sound great.
Sure.
Because they have no idea what they're listening to. The 6-zone controller is costing over $1,500 by itself, and the networking gear seems crazy expensive. $300 for just a 4-point switch, $450 for a VPN router, and $350 for an outdoor wireless access point. And we are at the time of the show when Tom is going to sneeze. Is it?
Here it comes.
It's on the way. Oh man, it's right there too. Again, friend of a friend, but he isn't sure how much impact our recommendations. So he isn't sure how much impact our recommendations will have. But sure, there's better, more cost-effective options. What we would recommend. Well, first of all, he ain't got no other options. If he's going to install it himself, or he's going to go with the installer. The installer is not going to let you purchase gear, give it to him, and say install it. It's not how this thing works.
No, and to be clear, a lot of installers, I don't know if it's still most, but a lot of installers, the price that they're quoting for the gear includes installation. At which point it's not such a bad deal because, I mean, it's weird. And the folks at CEDIA, like on their own CEDIA Tech Council podcast, they're encouraging CEDIA members to separate labor from parts, essentially, right? Which, like, just like they always explain, just like a plumber would do, right? You know, the plumber's not going to come in and charge you $180 for a little rubber ring or a little rubber gasket, but they separate their labor cost, and then so it's, you know, a 30-cent washer that they're installing, but their labor is $120. Whereas a lot of installers, they only list the price of the gear, and then they don't charge labor as a separate thing. So that can really, really impact what the prices look like, because you're going, if that's just the price of the piece of the gear, that's insane. But if it includes the installation, the labor fee, then it's not so bad.
Right, because you're not just dealing with just the installation either. You're dealing with all of it.
Yeah.
You know, you're dealing with the follow-ups, the questions, the, you know, how come you didn't put it here, and the moving things and everything else. So they factor all this into that. So there is a lot of that. But, you know, these prices, if you look online for a, you know, whatever it is,
six-zone whole house audio setup,
yeah, you could probably find one for about half price is what my guess would be.
Well, you can definitely find, so it depends a little bit on what you want to do. One that I like to recommend is from Dayton. It's their DAX66. That is a 6-source, 6-room matrix type of switch. Comes with wall plates that you can install, and those wall plates have IR sensors. And you can get remotes for them, or you can program any universal remote to send the commands through it. So you can use a remote in any room where you've installed one of the wall plates, or you can use the controls that are built into the wall plate itself. But this Dayton system, which costs just shy of $700, and that's just for the distribution thing, that includes the amplification and the distribution amplifier, and the wall plates, but it doesn't include the speakers you'd be installing, and it doesn't include the sources you'd be attaching to this thing.
Sure.
But it's just shy of $700, so it's less than half the price. But that one, the Dayton one, is not controllable via an app. And a lot of people want to control their whole house audio system via an app. Well, you can do that for less than the cost of what was quoted for the Speakercraft system. If you go over to HTD, that's Home Theater Direct, but it's htd.com, they have different systems. You'd want to go for what they call their mid-level system, which is meant for 6 zones, 6 inputs again, that you can send any of those 6 inputs to any of the 6 zones or a combination of zones. You can get it with or without keypads because you can use an app to control it. So if you know you don't need keypads in each room, you can get it for $879. That includes the amplification, 12 channels of amplification, so stereo in each of the 6 zones, and control it just with the app, $879. Or if you want to include wall plates and the app, then the wall plates add an additional, how much? Well, it's $1,100. So an extra $220 there that you're adding on for all of the wall plates. So still less expensive than the Speakercraft, but who's installing it? Because even if your installer allows you to purchase the gear yourself and then they install it, how much will they charge for the labor? So it could very well end up costing just as much as the Speakercraft one, you know, once labor is factored in. However, if that quote was just for gear and labor is extra, then it's for sure cheaper, right? We don't know exactly. We don't have all the information.
Yeah, so it's sort of a hard thing to really judge when you look at these things. You have to look at the whole price and say, you know, with labor and finishing and everything else. Like, I mean, I have a home theater in here. You know, there's wires running up the wall because I didn't want to open up the wall and refinish it. Can I do it? Yeah. Do I want to?
Yeah.
Nah. I haven't finished. I mean, I moved my speakers. I still haven't painted in there.
Right.
I've got a big thing of spackle in the other room so I can finish spackling. Haven't done that either.
Yeah. Yeah, because that HTD one and the Speakercraft one are essentially identical in features and specs. If the $1,500 for the Speakercraft one includes the installation and all the wall plate installation and stuff like that, then you're really not going to have any difference in price by the time you purchase it separately and have it installed. For outdoor speakers, I'd easily recommend Yamaha. Any of their outdoor speakers, we always go to them. And then, ironically, we don't recommend Outdoor Speaker Depot for outdoor speakers, even though it's in their name. But we do recommend them for in-ceiling speakers. I like their MK650s. They're $100 a pair, which is less than half the price of the pair of Speakercraft speakers that had been spec'd. Again, though, with the installation, maybe it'll end up being a wash.
Right.
So those are all the components. Do you want to talk a bit about the networking stuff? Because
no.
I will just mention on the CDA Tech Council podcast, man, do they love to overspec networking stuff. Now they're usually dealing with six-figure plus installs. So they're like, if we're going to do this, we want rock-solid network, so it's going to be enterprise-level network, like not even business-class network, enterprise-class network, right? That's what they're going for. And I'm like...
Well, it's an easy sell, too. You're like, okay, do you want to have, internet that's this fast or internet that's this fast? You're like, well, I want that this fast. I'm paying you a lot of money. I want to have this fast. Well... Don't worry, dude. It's all going to be Cisco and stuff. You're like,
yeah,
oh, okay,
I mean,
cool.
I agree. $300 for a 4-port switch. That's nuts.
It's nuts, yeah.
Completely unnecessary. I don't know if he needs a VPN. Do you need a VPN? If you do, I guess you're going to have to get a VPN router. You can get one for less than $450. But again, who's going to install it for you? $350 for an outdoor access point, again, does seem highly overpriced. But if that includes boring through your foundation wall and installing the thing, then it's not such a bad price. So a lot depends on whether the labor is included. I do think it's a bit of an overkill, but I don't know. Man.
It sounds like somebody with money, and they're looking at this going, yeah, it looks good to me. And you're like, oh my God, this stuff is way overpriced. But, first of all, they don't care. Number one. And number two, maybe we're not looking at the whole picture here. So,
that's right. I mean,
you could do it for half or less.
Yeah.
Yourself. This person is not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Therefore, it is worth it to them. And, the only thing Rob would probably want to try to talk about this enterprise level, whatever,
networking stuff. Yeah.
I would probably just be like, hey, dude, can you just see if they have any different speakers? Because Speakercraft sucks. I mean, they're not bad. I mean, I would be happy with them for whole home audio.
Well, get the in-ceiling speakers from Snap AV instead. Installers can buy from Snap AV, much better, price is lower. I'd go with them.
Yeah.
So that's an easy one.
I mean, the first question I have to ask is, where are the surround and surround back speakers going to go? Because if they're going to go in the ceiling, then that's
I'm sure they're going in the ceiling, man. What else would an installer do?
Yeah. All right, Dre. Dre just bought a townhouse and has an unfinished basement, and Dre is excited to turn it into a dedicated soundproofed home theater. He's getting quotes from contractors, hoping to choose one in August. He'd like our help with some things. The unfinished space is roughly 16 by 16, but there's an HVAC and some plumbing to be built around. He had it in mind to aim for 12 by 15 by 7 foot. I don't think you can do 7 feet, right? I mean, legally? I don't think you can do 7 feet. It's got to be like 7.5. I thought it was like 7 feet 7 or something like that.
So minimum code, so you can do 6 feet 7 inches because that's the height of a doorway. But you'd have to check minimum code for what the continuous, because you're allowed to have an average, right? So some parts of your basement ceiling can be even lower than 6 feet 7 inches technically, I think. But I think 6 feet 5 inches is the.
You want to check on that? Minimum. Your contractors will let you.
Yeah, you do have to check on that. So yeah. You might end up having some varying ceiling heights, because you can certainly build around, like there's one obvious pipe running along the middle of the ceiling up there.
Is there pictures? There's pictures.
Yeah, and you can just build, a bulkhead, a soffit that goes around that if necessary. I'm much more concerned about, is that a humidifier? I mean, it's part of his HVAC system, but it's got these hoses coming down from the bottom of it.
What's the deal with those hoses? There's hoses coming out of a big metal box.
I mean, there's big flex vents coming out of there, so I mean, it's got to be a humidifier, right, or a dehumidifier.
I don't know.
It looks like those hoses are going over to his hot water tank. I
think they're just going near it.
I know. I'm not exactly, but I'm much more concerned about that.
Could that be a drain?
Yeah,
the drain system for the
on both sides as well. There's drains on the left and the right side in the pictures. Yeah, there's some challenges in here, so let's continue with the question, and we'll go on with.
What's with all these gray things? Are they sheets they put up there?
Yeah, that's just a covering. I mean, it's there's a little thing peeking through it. It looks like, I mean, it's a townhouse, so the townhouse isn't going to be super wide. So I'm guessing that's the exterior wall, or maybe it's well, he didn't say it's a duplex, so. I'm thinking that's the exterior wall we can see just peeking behind the gray sheeting.
All right, he's thinking 12 by 15 by 7, but wants to know what we think. He'd love to have a perfect rectangle with dimensions that give good results according to the room mode calculator, but with some of the awkward ducting and HVAC, what's the best usage of available space? Dude, you should try to eke every inch out of it. If this is really what you're going for, you got to try to get every inch out of this that you can, because it's not very big.
It is kind of my thought. Now, because of that, whatever that is, the thing that's got the flex ducting that's clearly part of your HVAC system in some way and has the hoses hanging down.
I feel like that's going to be real loud. It looks loud. It looks like a piece of machinery that's not going to be quiet.
Yeah, I mean, either loud or has to have air available to it. I'm thinking you kind of need to build a utility closet, because I don't see closing
around that thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, there you can just see something peeking there that I think is water in the second picture. I can't, because there's a blue, maybe that's gas. Maybe that's the gas although gas is usually an orange hose. I think that's a hot water tank or something, but
yeah, it kind of looks like it. It does look like it.
Whatever is over on the left section of this room nearest the entrance, I don't see closing that into a ceiling. That doesn't look like something you can close into a ceiling. I think you have to build a closet around that. So the question becomes, from the images we can see, he's got a couple of windows. Those do not look like egress windows, so I don't think we're dealing with that side of things.
Well, he's looking for 12 by 14, maybe 12 by 15. Maybe that 12 is sealing all of that off.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe he's thinking he builds a wall just on images we're looking at, just on the far side of whatever that thing is on the ceiling attached to the HVAC. Yeah. Now, we're guesstimating by looking at it here. Looking at this wall that's covered in gray and has a drain pipe coming down the middle of it, that doesn't look like 12 feet from where the windows are to that drain pipe. And that drain pipe is right beside a duct that goes over to that HVAC thing. And that does not look like 12 feet in width to me, so I'm not sure where he's getting the 12-foot width, because if you're building the wall on the other side of that big, bulky HVAC thing on your ceiling, I'm thinking you're looking at a 8-foot wide room. I mean, it looks like it's right about halfway across this 16-foot wall. And an 8-foot wide room that's too narrow. What are you going to do with an 8-foot width?
Yeah. Okay, so let's pretend that he can actually do this.
Okay.
We're not the ones that are going to tell him if he can do it or not.
Right.
He's got contractors that are giving him quotes, and they're going to be like, dude, can't happen.
Yeah.
These are all the reasons why.
Right.
So let's pretend he can actually do 12 by 15 by 7.
Okay.
Let's say he can. Do we think that that's a good dimensions? And the answer to that question is any dimensions that you can get are good dimensions, because these are the dimensions you have. So it's better than 16 by 16 technically.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you plug those into the room mode calculator and they do give you nice numbers. So 12 by 15 by 7, that's not the problem. I'm just wondering if that is actually something that can physically be built in this space, and I have serious doubts that it can. I mean, if we were to build the wall on, like looking at the first image here, if you were to build a wall to the right of that HVAC thing on the ceiling, which doesn't come halfway across the full width of the room, but it still looks like that's more than 6 feet, isn't it?
I don't know, man.
I mean, or it's more than 4 feet anyway, if he was thinking a 12-foot width. So I don't see how you're going to make a 12-foot wide room that doesn't have part of that big HVAC thing stuck into it somehow, and that to me is an issue. So I'm thinking that what you end up doing here is you have a closet built around that big HVAC thing and whatever the water thing is peeking out behind it, because you got these hoses hanging down. That's a closet. Probably has to be a closet with a louvered door, because I'm betting that air needs to be able to circulate in that thing. Noise might be an issue. We can't quite tell.
Noise would be an issue for sure. It's got any moving parts whatsoever.
Yeah.
If air's going through it, it's got flexible ducting going to it, so air's going through it somehow. It's gonna make noise. I'm
concerned about this. I'm concerned that he's not going to be able to get what he really wants. If you have that closet built in there and then you close off the entrance to the room, you're going to have kind of an L shape.
Second question here. So let's get to the second question, and you can answer that.
I guess. Okay,
that's what you're saying. So he asks, when seeking quotes from contractors, what are the things he needs to be stressing so that he ends up with a good result? Well, first of all, you got to get Rob's question answered, which is, can I even do this? What is that thing?
Yeah.
And can I close it off? And do I still have a room afterwards? Or do I just have a very wide hallway next to this thing?
Yeah.
Because it very, very well could be that you can't do it. Okay. So that's the first thing that you have to be asking. The other thing is if it ends up being like smaller than you think it's going to be, this idea of soundproofing for me is where you're going to run into the biggest issue, because you are immediately going to start taking up more space.
Yeah, soundproofing requires thicker walls. It's just the way of things.
Yeah, so you're now eking even closer. So just say you could get 12 by 15, right?
Yeah.
But that was like to the studs. well, then you're going to be adding on to that. If you want true soundproofing, you're going to be adding on to that. You're going to be looking at like, 11.5 by 14.5, maybe. You know what I mean? That, you know what I mean? So now you're at 11.5 by 14.5. You're like, oh, that's getting kind of tight in here. Yeah, it is. Because he's saying to himself that he's, thinking of this theater idea, when you get that small, does it make sense to have a projector, which is answering his next question.
Right.
It makes more sense to have a TV because you're going to be sitting awfully close to this thing. Why buy a projector for, an image that you can basically get brighter on a direct display?
I would for sure consult with the folks over at Soundproofing Company because they consult for free, which is amazing. Right. That they're willing to do that, but you give them all the images, give them all the dimensions, and just consult with them a bit, because they have more knowledge of the full construction side of things than we do. I'm sure they'll have some of the similar concerns, but hopefully they'll be able to provide you better answers than we're able to provide you, because I'm concerned about just constructing this room, what's going to need to happen with that HVAC and whatever water, and these drains have cleanouts. Those have to be accessible.
Right.
Which means you got a hole in your wall.
Right.
Unless those drains are on the other side of a partition wall that you build. But then, like I say, eyeballing it, I don't see how you get 12 feet of width with the wall on the other side of that drain. All right. So you could end up with a very narrow room. I guess if this is a one-man theater, it's doable. But I definitely have concerns. So I would consult with Soundproofing Company for sure. Ideally, your contractor provides you more answers than questions. That's what they're supposed to do. But I suspect he's trying to get lower quotes on this, right? I think that's maybe what's going on here, and that it's worth hiring the contractor who might charge you more, who actually knows what they're doing. In an instance like this, that is so worth it. Even if it means you have to delay buying the gear for your theater, the room matters so much more.
In this case, yeah.
Yeah.
So far he's been making it clear that the room needs to be enclosed and soundproof. I'm going to tell you, man, that soundproof, that's not a trivial
the enclosed
thing.
For that matter, because if air has to be able to get to that HVAC thing, it's going to be a louvered door, and now it's not an enclosed room anymore.
Right. So I mean, there's
concerns.
We're talking that there's some concerns here as far as costs, because once you get to soundproofing, and it just may very well be that you're like, I can't soundproof it because I can't afford it, or B, it's going to take up so much extra space on my walls that it's now my room is no longer a room. It's a very large walk-in closet.
Anything can be done with enough money. You could have your entire HVAC system replaced, and you no longer have that big thing on your ceiling. You could have your drains rerun. You could tear up the foundation of your entire townhouse and rerun the plumbing. I mean, it can be done, but I don't think that's the kind of money he's looking to spend.
Yeah, so far he's making it clear the room needs to be enclosed and soundproof. It needs to have HVAC. Well, I mean, they already has HVAC.
But I don't see a register for this. Right. Yeah.
And he wants all the cables run inside of conduit so they can replace the cables later if needed.
That's easy.
Yeah, that's so far. But you think about that. Now you're talking about running cables inside conduit. That means that you got to have enough space in your walls. You can't just slap some.
You're building studs. You're building full 2x4 studs, not just strapping on the exterior walls.
Exactly, which is what my wall is right here.
Yeah.
So anything else he asks? Is there anything else he should be worried about?
I think we've covered it in our concerns.
I think you got lots of things to worry about. So he says he definitely wants a projection setup, and again, I don't think that.
It might not be. In my tiny little, you might end up with a room the size of my room, right? A little over by 11 by 12. That's what I'm dealing with. I'm not putting a projector in there as much as I love projection. I'm, 6.5 feet.
You might end up with a 65-inch TV, and I think that would be just fine. Or a 75-inch too. So
yeah.
So no matter what, this room is too small for 2 rows of seating, right? Well, I mean, technically you could stack them on top of each other, but. Yeah, I mean...
It wouldn't be my plan.
I would not plan for 2 rows of seats.
No.
The back row is almost certainly going to be on the back wall.
Yes. I mean,
which is fine.
Nothing says you can't put some bar stools back there. If you have enough people over that, you need some more seats, you stick some bar stools behind the main seats. Yeah, that can be done. But I wouldn't count on an installed...
armless couch where a bunch of people can sit on it. No, they don't have little cup holders for everybody and all that stuff.
No.
It just takes up room. We are so happy that we got this big couch that has technically 3 seats, 2 oversized seat, 2 like double size seat, and 1.5 size seat. We can get my whole family on there. It's great. So what seating distance and screen size should we be aiming for?
We got to know the room first.
We can't. We can't answer that.
I mean,
question.
if it were 12 by 15, I'd say 10 feet away, because that's great for a 100 to 110 inch screen. Yeah, somewhere in that range. And 10 feet would leave you a nice, 5 feet behind your seat. There, you could put bar stools behind there if you wanted to for temporary seating. That's what I would say if it were 12 by 15. But I have my doubts about it being 12 by 15. So we got to nail down the room first, and then we could decide what your seating distance is, and that will dictate your screen size. That can all be sorted later.
So he's trying to plan ahead for speaker placement overall room design, since he wants to run cables run inside the walls. Are there any good apps we recommend so that he can whip up mock-ups of the home theater to figure out optimal locations? Nope.
Well, there's some there's actually like I'm gonna on avrant.com have a link to an article that lists 6 different home theater design software options. I don't know if he wants to pay some money for it or not. There's a couple of free ones in here, which of course being free are kind of basic, but one of them is really not too bad, as long as you're willing to not have things literally look and get rendered exactly how they're going to look. If you're just doing it for the layout, one of the free ones in there is not too bad. So yeah, it's over at a place called, homestratosphere.com. And if you look up home theater design software there, you'll get a list of some options.
All right. Clara on Twitter. If you are mounting Atmos speakers on the ceiling, but the construction of the room is such that they cannot be symmetrical in their distance to each side, is that okay? Will room correction take care of that? For example, top middles, but one is 4 feet to your left, while the other is 6 feet to your right. This is a common question that we run across, and really it's not even room correction that fixes this. It's just how loud the speaker plays.
It's your basic setup. It's your distance and trim level settings.
It's just
right?
level matching. Yeah. You're just level matching it. So you make sure that at the main seat in the center of the couch, which should be your main seat, that the volume coming out of the left speaker and the volume coming out of the right speaker is the same. In which case, yes, it's not optimal to have them different distances away, but they're top middles, right? So they're above your head and firing straight down, and they're supposed to be kind of diffuse anyways, and who cares? No, I mean, your ears aren't facing them exactly. It's there's a lot of things that are going on here that it doesn't really matter. Yeah, no, there's a lot of people because of the way the room is laid out, their surround speakers will be different distances from them. We're going to see that too very soon, and that's okay. Yes, if you were planning it from scratch and building a home theater to your specifications, that's not the way you would do it. But real world, that's fine. That's why you're able to set different distances and trim levels for each speaker individually, and it's okay. It's fine. All right, I want to go back to this last question. What's this guy's name? Dre. All right, so I just want to kind of mention Dre one more time. Okay. That could have come off as very, very negative on our part. And I want to make sure, Dre, that you hear me and Rob as well when we say we're more worried about expectations. Your expectations right now seem extremely high based on what you're planning. That's me, dude. You are speaking my language. I am already halfway done in my mind of what's going to happen, of what we're doing before we've taken step one. Like I'm already writing my acceptance speech for the award I'm going to be given for whatever we're doing. So we're just trying to kind of put the brakes on it a little bit and go back to the basics here, which is just let's figure out if it can be done, and then once we figure out if it can be done, let's figure out what it's going to look like, at least in general. Then we can answer all the rest of those questions. Right. Yeah. That's kind of where we're coming from. We definitely don't want to burst your bubble, and you absolutely can have a theater in this space, but it's a question of some of the what I had in mind for ideal conditions. Reality might simply be saying we're going to have to take a step back from that, and so we just want to proceed with some caution. Yeah. All right, Russell on Facebook. Have good luck tagging that one, Rob. I know. Do that two times. Two times. You're going to do it twice. Russell on Facebook. What's a good Canadian site for buying inexpensive cables? I don't know. I don't live in Canada.
Yep. Most people will probably want to go to primecables.ca these days because they just carry monoprice stuff. So if you just want to get monoprice stuff with Canadian shipping and Canadian dollar prices instead, primecables.ca. But there's also Just One Cable, and one is actually spelled out O-N-E. So it's justonecable.ca, another good place to get inexpensive cables.
There you go. Nick in Australia. Nick is downsizing to an apartment. It's a concrete construction, and he'll be on the top floor. Okay. Wood flooring, 8.5 foot ceiling height, and the main living room / dining room / kitchen area is about 3,000 cubic feet, but probably has openings to everything. He sent us a diagram with his proposed layout, and he'd like our input. Floor to ceiling windows and balcony access are on the right. All right, let's take a look at this.
Yes.
Okay. So, on the right of this room, of where he's sitting, there's doors in the balcony, so sliding glass doors in the balcony. That would be on his right side.
Yes.
Then the TV would be on the front wall, left and right. Apparently, there are no other speakers. Center channel speaker doesn't look like it exists here. He's got he calls them mids. I guess those are going to be
top middle speakers.
Top middles
for an Atmos setup. Yep.
And then he's got rear speakers rather than surround speakers. But in your receiver menu, you're going to call them surrounds.
Yes.
One is sitting almost directly behind the person's head who is sitting on the rightmost seat of the couch, because there is a door right behind there. So the wall is then door width away. The back wall is actually door width away, and your left rear speaker is that much further behind.
Yeah.
So one is like almost in the ear of the person who's sitting on the right side of that couch. The left side of the couch, it's probably 4 or 5 feet behind it. Okay.
Yeah, maybe about 4 feet behind. Yeah.
So he's asking what again? He wants to know what I gotta scroll.
Well, what do we think of the proposed layout? That's what he's asking first. Yeah. So mostly about those surround speakers. You say, should he maybe put them on stands? And I would.
Do you have the option? Because I would totally do that. I think you could wall mount, if you really wanted to, the one that you have on the right, but I would move the one on the left up, so that was actually to your side.
For sure.
If you can do that, that would be great. The mids need to go a little bit further back. They need to be right above your couch.
Sure.
On either side. But the front left and right speaker, you don't have a center, which is a little weird. Your subwoofer is sitting right off the right side of the couch. So
yes.
In between the couch and the wall, next to the door, I guess that it's kind of the door there's a little walkway that comes into the house there, or whatever that comes from. It's really close to your couch, which might not be an issue, but it might be. My only time I've ever really experienced localization of a subwoofer was when the subwoofer was directly behind my couch. I used to keep it directly behind my couch because it was out of sight and blah blah blah. Well, I knew it was, you could. It wasn't so much localization from hearing; it was localization from I can feel it doing things back there.
Right.
So
it could maybe live next to your front left speaker. Looks like you got some room up there.
Where I would probably put it. That was the one place that's stuck in mind as being the place I would put it. Not knowing how wide this room is exactly. I don't know if this is like half of the room, but I'm imagining this is more like around a third. And then there's going to be maybe a little bit less than half, and then there's a little space for the dining area there, and then there's probably a kitchen off to the left.
It looks like the kitchen is in the image, the bottom, because I'm seeing something that looks like maybe that's a thing for a stove or whatever. So
it could be.
It's a little bit cut off there, yeah.
But I'm thinking to myself, if you ended up getting 2 subs, putting it next to your left front speaker, and then where that arrow is in his little drawing, which is right next to his left front speaker, that's showing us the width as 12.5 feet. He could put the other subwoofer back down there, but I don't know. That could be I don't know what that could be. That could be a bar back there for all I know. So maybe that doesn't work.
But anyway, that's some ideas. But overall, if you're able to put this round speaker on a stand, I would do that.
Yeah. He's got bookshelf speakers that he was using as surrounds his old place, but they're way too big now. What speakers would we recommend what speakers would we recommend for mounting on his ceilings as top middles, and mounting on his back walls or on stands for surrounds?
And keeping in mind he's in Australia.
Well, he's in Australia, right? So the brands I noticed in Australia, there was lots of the typical ones you would know. Yamaha had speakers there. Dolly, I saw quite a bit of. Canton is there, I believe. KEF speakers are there as well. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that come to mind.
You'd be able to find Klipsch for sure.
Klipsch for sure. Yes. Yamo would be there, I would believe. So what you got, Rob?
I would recommend KEF because they have the E301s. They're the ones that kind of look like eggs, but they come with a built-in pivot mount, so they're perfect for mounting on your ceiling. They're like the alternative for the Focal Little Birds once the Focal Little Birds disappear, which I still think will happen eventually since they discontinued them ages ago. Yeah, the KEF E301s, I would certainly do that. And then KEF actually has a neat floor stand that's meant exactly for the E301s. Now, it looks just like a stick stand like you would have for any speakers, but they actually designed it so that the inputs are built into those little stick stands, and then your speaker wire just gets attached to the base of the stand. It's all, like, integrated.
Oh, all right. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I kind of like available in black or white. So, yeah, that's what I'd go for.
I like those stands, too. I've seen those stands before. Yeah, that's cool. All right, but... like, I don't know where you are in Australia, he didn't say, but like West Coast Audio always had like speakers on their clearance or return shelf or whatever. And I saw all kinds of like whole home audio systems, dollies and stuff like that on there. So I would definitely keep my eyes open for that as well. So, yeah. But if you're going to buy new, this is good. He already owns an SVS PB2000. It's big. PB2000. It's big. Should he keep it or sell it and get something smaller? The retailer he bought it from said they would let him exchange it for 75% of what he paid for it in store credit. Too bad it's not dealing directly with SVS. They would give you it all. He still owns a 9-inch Sunfire True subwoofer. Could he maybe pair that with SVS SB1000, or maybe use any available store credit for some on-wall speakers this retailer. Oh,
yeah,
what?
The one that he bought the PB2000 from.
Oh,
right? That's where he'd have the store
trends.
credit.
Oh, okay.
They don't carry KEF, unfortunately.
All right,
so yeah.
The PB was it 2000?
Yeah,
that's a big stuff.
It's big, but it's appropriate for this room size.
If it were me and I was looking to maximize my floor space, I would look into trading this in or something and getting a PC 2000.
Get the cylinder, less floor space,
right, and doubles as a stand or whatever.
I wouldn't really want to go down to the 9-inch Sunfire in this room though. It's because interestingly, like this is coming up, he's worrying about bothering neighbors and that, but it's a little bit counterintuitive because when you go to the small sub that is actually struggling with the room size, because the base doesn't know that you've only designated a portion of your room as the theater area. The base just tries to play in all the places where the air is capable of moving. So when you have the little sub in the room that's too big for it, it starts to struggle, it starts to vibrate, and those vibrations are what bothers your neighbors, and it starts to distort. So it's actually better to have a sub that is appropriate for your room size, which the PB2000 or the PC2000 is, and then you're not dealing with distortion or noise or rattling or vibrations or those type of things. Yeah. So I'm not inclined to trade it in for 75%. If they'll give you a PC2000 straight up, then okay, that saves you floor space.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Maybe moving up to that front left corner will help you out.
Yeah, yeah. Up to your front left speaker.
So he says he'd like to disturb his neighbors as little as possible. Any suggestions to help him on that front? Well,
damp everything.
Damp everything, yeah. The idea here is that you want to use those, if you don't already have them, the sound path isolation feet, if you don't already have them, or something similar. I mean, you'll have to have those. Anything that disconnects the sub from the floor.
And your speakers too, to be honest.
Yeah, all of it.
If you got tower speakers, don't have the pointy feet, directly into the floor. Get something squishy under those towers.
So basically what you're worried about is sound leaking through, air gaps between, like the outlets and stuff that may be shared on a common wall. But more than that, you're worried about structural transference of sound. That sound's going to transfer through those solids very, very easily. Where sound loses power is when it changes mediums. So when it goes from air to solid, then back to air again, it's lost a lot of energy. But if you're as they used to say, and I was guilty of this as well because I didn't know any better. They used to say you decouple your speakers by putting spikes on them, which is wrong.
It's the opposite. That is coupling.
So you by giving them a very secure place, even though it's a little point, guess what? Sound doesn't care that's going through a needle. It cares that it's touching.
Well, it's pounds per square inch, and you've just drastically reduced the number of square inches by putting it all into a point. Yeah.
So the drivers are shaking the cabinet or vibrating the cabinet. The cabinet is vibrating the feet is vibrating the floor is vibrating the walls, and the walls then are only making one transference of sound from the wall to your neighbor's wall.
Yeah.
Or to neighbor's air, I guess I should say. So what you want is you don't want that. You want the speaker to put sound into the air, which then the air gets into the wall, which the wall then shakes and then gets it back into the air. That seriously reduces it. Now, is that going to alleviate it? No.
Not 100%. No.
There's no chance of that.
But damp your speakers, damp anything that can be vibrating in physical contact with your floor or walls.
Yeah. He asks, what about potentially using a butt kicker? Would having a tactile transducer allow him to use a smaller sub? No. Would it help him in terms of bothering the neighbors less? No.
And you would definitely want to damp your sofa.
I was going to say, you now have to have you're now vibrating a sofa, which is connected to the ground.
Yep.
Now, unless you want your you're going to put your sofa on some sort of water bed. So
well, I mean, butt kicker themselves sell rubber feet to put under the feet of your sofa because they know this happens.
Yeah. And since his Denon X3400W receiver has two subwoofer outputs, could he just feed one of those subwoofers to a subwoofer and the other one to the butt kicker amplifier without needing any additional DSP device?
It's not advisable.
Yeah, I thought they needed full range, don't they? The butt kickers?
No, they don't need full range, but if you are... So X3400W definitely has Odyssey. Right, so that is EQing your subwoofer, and then that EQ'd signal gets sent out of both subwoofer outputs, and there's no way to separate that. There's no way to have unique EQ signals coming out of the two subwoofer outputs. It's one EQ signal for both. You can have different level and distance settings. Those can be independent, but not the EQ. So there's two ways to come at it. One, you can just use the editor app to not have the subwoofer channel EQ'd. Then you could feed that non-EQ'd signal directly to the butt kicker amp, and then if you still want EQ for your sub, you'd have to feed it into something like a miniDSP and EQ it manually. The reverse of that is you could send out the Odyssey signal from the subwoofer output. That would go directly to your subwoofer, that's fine, but then you would want to plug the other one into a mini-DSP to counteract the EQ to feed the butt kicker. I mean, you can do that. You can use the EQ in the mini-DSP to counteract the EQ of Odyssey so that the butt kicker amplifier is not getting an EQ'd signal. But ideally, you want a flat signal, like a non-EQ'd signal, going to the butt kicker amp, and then you probably still want to EQ your sub, so... One way or the other.
Understand that your sub is putting sound into your room, and your Odyssey is measuring the sound that is being generated in your room, and correcting the signal that's going to the sub, so that the sound that's being generated in the room, which is being affected by the room, is flatter.
Yeah, so it's boosting
flatter.
Some frequencies and cutting some frequencies in the signal to counteract what the room is doing to the airborne sound.
But if you send that directly to the butt kicker, the butt kicker will then say, okay, during, it'll get a boost of, let's say, 10 dB at some frequencies. Suddenly, it's shaking your couch like crazy for you have no idea why. And then it gets to a different frequency, and it's got a 10 dB cut from there, and it goes completely silent. Yeah. Or completely motionless, I guess would be the right term. So you need since there is no room interaction at the butt kicker level, you need it to be a flat line that it's sending out, which you cannot do from the 4400 or the 3400, whatever one he's looking at.
3300, so, I mean, you can use the editor app to essentially turn the subwoofer correction off while retaining the correction for all your other speakers. You can kind of
I like this solution. I mean, I've never been a fan of butt kickers anyways.
I know
but this solution right here is kind of bass-ackward, basically. You're now adding another thing that's vibrating. If you're going to add another thing that vibrates in the room, add another sub. You know what I mean? That's, to me, that makes the most sense. But if you're looking to recapture some floor space, I would go to the PC2000 or live with what you have. I would not add a butt kicker. I would try to add room treatments so that there's not that as much as you can, maybe a movable one so that that front right speaker, which is sitting right near a glass wall, has something to shoot into to catch that reflection. I would put stuff behind your head if you can. I would put something on the ceiling if you could. I would put a big rug on the ground between you and your TV.
Yeah, because you did say wood floors. Yep.
Yeah, so in the left speaker you have to worry about, it's just firing out into the room, but I'm telling you, it's going to bounce all over the place in there. And you're going to be sitting there watching TV, and it's going to be completely reasonable to you, and then people are going to be at the dining table going, "Can you turn it down? We can't hear ourselves think." This happens at my friend's house all the time. He has an open-ish concept place, and the kids are watching TV in there. We've gotten to the point where, like, you can play video games there, but you can't have the sound on. We can't, I mean, in the other room, we can't take it. Especially like movies, the explosions get so loud where we are. And for them, it just is like, I mean, we're trying to hear what they're saying. We're like, yeah, we can't hear what we're saying. So, yeah. Lior has a Denon X4400H with a 5.1.2 setup. He was listening. He set his listening mode to auto or pure auto, but noticed that doing so resulted in the upmixer always being used for any Dolby or DTS 5.1 or 7.1 content. He just wants straight decoding. 5.1 plays in 5.1, 7.1 plays in 7.1. Well, I guess 5.1 in his case. Yep. And only actual Atmos or DTS X uses the overhead speakers.
All right.
He found that direct listening mode does what he wants in terms of speakers, what speakers make sound, but then Odyssey is turned off.
Yeah.
And Odyssey is one of the main reasons he bought a Denon receiver. I'm with you. So there's a way to have things play the way he wants. Why is there no straight decoding listening mode that keeps Odyssey turned on? Okay, so I went to the online Denon manual.
Oh, okay.
And kind of tried to look this up. And it is, while this manual is not bad, it is not helpful in this regard, because it seems to me that direct should be the right one, but it doesn't say anywhere that I could find that Odyssey gets turned off when direct is. But I know that because we've talked about it on the podcast a bunch. But what I do with mine, and I don't care that it gets unfixed anyways, is once you hit the mode, a little screen comes up and you can select the different modes that are there.
Right. So you'd hit instead of hitting, so in his case, he's hitting there's 4 listening mode buttons on the Denon remote. He's hitting the one that is labeled as pure, and that cycles through direct, pure direct, and auto. And so he's like, if I use direct or pure direct, it turns off Odyssey, so he doesn't want either of those. And then auto is the other one that it'll go to, and that works except that it always applies an up mixer, which is true. Right. That's what it does. But you have the 3 other buttons, which are movie, music, and game.
Seems like there should be something in those that you can do this with. Like it's
it's one of these things where it does remember by input what listening mode you were using last.
Right. It does that.
So you will have to set this manually at least once, and you'll have to do so for every single one of your sources. And then if it's a source like a Blu-ray player that can output different audio formats, so a Blu-ray player, of course, could be outputting a Dolby True HD at some point, DTS HD Master Audio at some point. Maybe you stick a regular DVD in there, so it's outputting vanilla Dolby Digital 5.1 or DTS 5.1. For every different type of signal, you will have to manually set it using the movie, music, or game button. And if what he wants is just straight decoding, it doesn't matter which of those 3 you use to get to the one that is just the name of the signal that you're decoding, right? So if it's a Dolby True HD signal, one of the listening modes under those 3 buttons, movie, music, and game, will just be Dolby True HD. So you will manually have to set that for every source, for every type of signal that comes from every source. You will have to do that once, but after that, it will remember whenever it gets that signal type from that source, it'll remember what you used last.
And we will recommend game. Game is the one.
I mean, game is the one we recommend if you're using an up mixer. But he doesn't want to use an up mixer, so it doesn't really matter, right? If he's just doing a straight decoding.
You're right. But I mean, that way, if he accidentally up mixes it, won't
that's
be
true.
Bad.
Yeah. So use game or pure. those are the ones. But yeah, you're right about the auto. I don't know why Yamaha still just has a straight decode mode, which is exactly what you want. But for whatever reason, Denon and Marantz don't offer that. But you will have to manually do this once for every source, for every type of signal from each source. But then it will remember.
Fred Fred and his wife have moved. Their new house is a bit of a fixer-upper, so making some changes to allow for a room dedicated to home theater is part of the plan. Much like in Tom's house, the idea is for the theater to be the only room with a TV.
Mm-hmm.
In their previous place, he had a 50-inch plasma TV with a manual pull-down screen just in front of it. He and his wife enjoy the approximately 45-degree field of view for movies, but they'd like to be able to use this new theater for more casual TV viewing as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we have some pictures here. It's like, well, okay, the thing has 2 openings. Am I not
Yeah, the proposed theater room has 2 like full openings, no doors on those openings as it stands right now. So this looks like it was meant to be like a living room and dining room, more or less attached to each other. There's a slight like demarcation
this
partition.
Is almost exactly like my old house. My first theater, this is it, and I did it the exact. I'm telling you, I did it the exact way he did.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about. So there's it's 17.9 feet wide, 12.59 feet deep.
Yeah.
You know, so it's going to be wider than it is deep.
Yes.
And there's a window on one wall.
Yeah, there's a window on one of the long walls, a window on one of the 17.9 feet walls. Yeah.
And the opening on the right-ish would go into the dining room area, which probably also leads into the kitchen. And the opening on the left goes into a little hallway, which if he moves to the right, I guarantee, if you go out that hallway and go to the right, I bet that's his front door. Because that's where my front door was.
That would make sense. It's a little bit like the Simpsons house.
It is. All right. So we've already described all this.
Yep.
They're okay with adjusting the size of the openings a bit, but his wife thinks it would be nice to have French doors, almost certainly mostly glass, so they don't completely block the existing sense of the house being open. Will those be a nightmare acoustic-wise? Is glass much worse than having wood doors? Good luck.
I mean, if you're talking about the reflections inside of the theater, not a big difference.
Yeah.
But what we're probably more worried about is rattles.
Yeah. So, but that's what it comes down to is if you're going to have French doors, they tend to rattle no matter what you do. But
I mean, there are good quality French doors that don't rattle.
You need to. I would spend some money on these things, to be honest with you, and make sure that you have them so that you can absolutely lock one of them in place. So that one is like a wall; it doesn't move. And then the other one, when you secure it to it, you just make sure that one's damped or is also able to be locked in place.
Yeah, because I mean, you can get French doors that are high quality. They're quite heavy. They're quite solid. They don't rattle when the sound plays. So, but they're more expensive, obviously. Yeah. So I would pony up the money for those. It'll be worth it. They'll look nicer. They'll last longer as well. So if that's the way you have to sell the finance committee on it, is that these are higher quality that will last longer and look better anyway, and you won't have problems when you're using the theater, then it's all good.
I'm actually worried about how they're going to open in, to this place, because what I mean, the one on the left side is probably going to be opening directly into the couch. So they either have to be real small doors, or they're going to have to be
I mean, you could have it so that because this is coming up, but he wants to have the TV opposite the window, which I don't know. Sometimes I like putting a TV in front of a window, but a lot of people hate that. They don't like having the window blocked, so I can understand that.
Right.
So assuming the TV does go on the wall opposite the window, then you could have it so that the opening, which will be on what will be your theater's left wall, which is presently the bigger opening, and that goes to the dining room, you could have it so that the French door that locks is, when you're looking at the door, the one that's on the left.
Right.
And then the one on the right will open in towards your television, but away from your seats. And then the opposite thing for the opening on what will be your theater's right-hand side.
I cannot picture it this way because I have my room the other way, and I'm going to make my case for that in just a second.
Okay.
So he figures the only layout that really makes sense is have the room wider than it is long, I agree, and to put the TV on the 18-foot, or 17, whatever it is, wall opposite the large picture window, which I do not agree with. So a single wide couch for seating, but he doesn't enjoy sitting too close to a TV, so what's the optimum seating position? Heavy drapes over the picture window have been approved. Dude, you 100% have to sit the other way, okay? First of all, it's weird. It's weird to see
to have the window behind you?
To have the window behind you and have the back of the couch. Like it closes off that room. Like put the couch on the side that has the window. Do not get a TV. Just have a projector set up. Have a drop screen and then you can enjoy your window as much as you have the whole thing open, and then you close it up.
When it's TV time, the drapes come in, the screen comes down. And yeah, I can dig that. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm a fan of putting TVs in front of windows. Then you can see the window behind the TV if you want to.
Exactly. And then and then you can adjust where the screen is based on how big of a field of view you want, and then you can have your couches pretty much anywhere you want in that back half of the room.
Since this room is a little over 12 feet from what will be front to back, I'd put the seats about so that your eyes are about 10 feet away from that window. That's what I'd go for. That gives you a bit of space behind your couch, not a ton. You could put one of those nice behind the couch tables, right? And you can have your pictures back there. You can put some printed acoustic panels on that wall behind your seat. It'll be great. You won't need surround back speakers. You'll just have surrounds. And then, yeah, if you want a television for casual viewing, I have no problem having a TV on a stand in front of the window. If you absolutely hate that, you just have the retractable screen that comes down from the ceiling in front of the window. You close the curtain, screen comes down. It's theater time.
Yeah. Perfect. They could just get a larger TV, or they could stick with the TV and projector combo they have now. What do we think is best? I think we just said it, but I think the projector makes the most sense. If you have the TV, and this is what I did in my room, I had the TV on the stand in front of the window, and we'd open the drapes and stuff like that, and it looks normal. It looks normal. And then you drop the screen in front of the TV, and you've got this big old field of view, which is, I think I had like a 980. It was custom. It was like 86-inch or something like that is what we figured out it should be. But tab tensions and all that, and it doesn't have to be acoustically transparent, so that makes it a little bit cheaper as well. And to me, that makes the most sense. And then those things are IR controlled anyway, so you press your little Harmony remote, the thing starts coming down. It's amazing. So we like a minimum of 5.2.4 setup. I would highly recommend not getting surround back speakers. Yeah. In my similar room, putting the surround back speakers back there just screwed everything up. I hated them.
Agreed.
What do we think would be optimal? He already owns EMP Tech speakers, a pair of towers in the large center, and a pair of bookshelf speakers, plus one pair of SVS Prime Elevation speakers and dual SVS SB2000 subs. Those will be way overkill in this room once you enclose it, but God love you, sir. He's open to putting speakers on stands or swapping some out for in walls or on walls or mounting speakers on the ceiling. So what do you think is best? Well, RBH makes those on wall speakers that are like super sexy.
Yeah,
right?
The Ultra Ones.
I would put those on either side of that couch and be done with it. That's what I would do.
Well, what would you do for the 4 overheads, though? I mean, we're totally in agreement. 5 speakers that go around you. I mean, you could just use
I would use the Prime Elevations as a top fronts, and then I would use the I would do whatever you want overhead. The outdoor speakers.
Yeah, if you want to do in
RBH.
Ceiling, or you want to do on.
I would do in ceilings for sure. I would.
Yeah, you certainly could. I mean, you're making some changes to this room anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, that's easy then. Or, I mean, heck, he's got EMP Tech. He could go with RBH in ceiling speakers, and then
that's
everything
what I was going to say.
Matches.
You can do the RBH in ceiling, but you probably save money going the other way. But whatever, it doesn't make any difference. The plan is pretty much to replace all the carpet in the house with wood flooring. Dun, dun, dun. So he might be dealing with hard floors, glass French doors on both sides, and the big picture window behind him, albeit with heavy drapes over the window. What would be our plan of attack as far as absorption goes? Doesn't change, man. I mean, first reflection points, your speaker's going to be far enough back into the room that you could probably hit that first reflection point if you play with the placement of the speakers. Hit that first reflection point so that it is it's on the wall and not on the door.
Maybe the room is wider than it is long, though, so that might be a bit of a challenge. But I'm not because the room is wider than it is long. The first reflection point might not be as bad anyway. Yeah, so I'm not too worried about that specifically. Does this one room also have to be hard floor? I mean, it'd be great to just keep the carpet in here.
No, it does. It does. You're not gonna do hardwood all over the house. Yeah, just get a rug, man.
Just get a rug. So that takes care of that. You got the heavy drapes. That's good. We already said we're gonna flip this room around, so you're gonna have printed acoustic panels on the wall behind you. That'll help make sure that your dialogue is clear, and it's gonna look great. It's going to look fantastic because you can get wonderful art printed onto those panels.
Put a couple of panels in the front on either side of that window.
Yeah.
And just about any place else you can. I would definitely do some corner trapping if you can.
If you could, yeah. I mean, the rear corners are prime suspects for that.
Well, one of those corners is probably going to have a subwoofer in it, so you got to consider that. There you go.
That's it.
What time was it? Daniel, what's your recommendation for a good surge protector? He'd like to plug in his TV, AV receiver, a couple of set-top boxes, his PS4, and his PB2000 sub. I want a good recommendation for a UPS for my new computer, because we get power fluctuations here all the time. He asked, does he still need a battery backup, or is there a nice, inexpensive surge protector that can provide peace of mind? He wants TV, AV receiver, some boxes, PS4, and PB2000. The only time we really care that much about a UPS or a battery backup is when you're worried about fans.
Right.
So nothing that you've said here is, I mean, I don't know what your TV is. You could have like one of those old rear projection. Remember those rear projection ones that were like the super compact, stuff like that? Man, those bulbs used to explode all the time around here. As long as it doesn't have a fan in it, then I don't think you necessarily need to have UPS. Is it nice?
I mean, I like to have it for anything with a hard drive, so his PS4 would have that.
Yeah, that's true.
I definitely like to have it if I have a DVR, because then my recordings can keep going if the power goes out for just a short while. But barring that, I mean, yeah, you're not in a situation where I would say you must have a battery backup. I mean, if you have a projector, you must have a battery backup, in my opinion. But all of these, you could get away without it, so there's certainly some very inexpensive suggestions. I like APC's P8V. You can find it for $45, so that shouldn't break the bank. And the reason I like it is it allows through the full 15 amps of a wall outlet. So if you plug your AV receiver and your PB2000 subwoofer into it, it is not going to be starving those components for current. So that is why I like that particular one. At $45 should be acceptable. If you do want battery backup, of course, I like APC's J25B, but now you're talking about $250. So it's a $200 price increase to get you the full battery backup. It does have two outlets that are surge only, that they label as high current, that allow the full 15 amps through. So that's where you would plug your AV receiver and your PB2000 subwoofer. You'd plug it into those high current outputs. They won't have battery backup, but they'll let the full current through for those, and then everything else will have battery backup. But $250 might be a lot more than you want to spend.
You know, there's something that we need to say more often that we don't say enough, and that is plugging your gear into a surge protector does not really protect your gear.
Not a ton.
Not
from a lightning strike. It doesn't.
Well, and not only that, it's because I am 100% sure you people, and by you people, I include myself, do not plug every piece of everything that is plugged into your home theater gear into some sort of protection. There is a wire that goes from, you know, my router to my home theater that I ran. It's a big old long piece of whatever this, and then it goes into my Giga port switch thingy, whatever it was. Did not cost $450 either.
No,
but whatever. That thing gets struck by lightning. No matter how many things I got plugged into surge protectors over here, the whole thing's going down. You know, it could go anywhere.
Oh yeah, the electricity go any path it can find.
That's right. So, and on top of that, I know from my own personal experience, if you have cable and they have those cable outlets on the APCs and everything else, I know they're not supposed to have any signal attenuation or anything like that. They totally do, because I plug it into my APC so that I can protect my cable before it goes to my box, so that I'm not going to get a surge that way. 100% lost channels. I mean, I lose 100% of channels, but I 100% lost some channels because the signal was attenuated. Yeah, and I wasn't okay with that, so I took it off, and I was like, well, whatever, I guess. Rolling the dice. Now,
less expensive for battery backup, but we've mentioned it before, and actually this might be a good one for you, Tom, for your computer, is Trip Light's AVR 900. It's $95 you can find that thing for. And I would not plug your AV receiver or your subwoofer into it, though, because this one does choke the current down to 12 amps. That's one of the things it does. So, yeah, a little bit. I'd probably just get the P8V, man. You said you just wanted surge protection. That's probably the one I'd get. It's the cheapest.
Yeah. I don't know if that has enough outlets for me. We'll have to talk about that. Nick. This is going to be the last one.
We missed one from...
Oh, I missed it. All right, he also has a TV mounted above his fireplace with an outlet directly behind it. What's a good surge protection solution for that? The idea would be to avoid seeing any wires or clutter, of course. Man, dude, just like any little strip thing should probably do.
Well,
well
APC's got you covered there. They've got a nice little unit that, I mean, it just plugs into the wall and then it just sits like 1.5 inches in front of your wall and becomes your new plug. So that's the P4V. That is $25. You can find that thing.
Does it have 4 outlets?
It has 4 outlets.
Oh, okay, good.
It's the P4V. So that's the one I'd recommend for that.
Nick, what's our recommendation for a tab tension, non-acoustically transparent, motorized roll-down screen? Ideally, he'd like something with the performance of a Stewart Studio Tech 130, but at a lower price. We don't... Wait, who has the tab tension? It's the Elites have the tab tension ones?
Elite does have a tab tension one, but it's not great.
Yeah. All right. Not that one. That's not the one I was going to recommend. So what are we recommending?
Well, so Seymour AV would, I mean, it's still kind of pricey, but it's less expensive than Stewart.
Right.
They do have non-acoustically fabrics. Now, on their website, they don't list their retractable screen, and they only make a tab-tensioned retractable screen. They don't make any that aren't tab-tensioned. They don't list the, so was it Glacier White is the one that would be their Studio Tech 130 comparable. They don't list it as something you just order off the website, but I am certain that if you just contact them, they can make you a retractable screen with the Glacier White fabric. That, I mean, Seymour does custom stuff all the time, and it's not even that custom. But let's, for whatever weird reason, suppose that somehow they don't. Maybe that Glacier White fabric just can't be rolled a bunch of times. I'm not sure if that's the case. Seymour would be able to tell you. But Illunevision would be a great alternative. They're about the same price as Seymour. They have tab-tensioned roll-down screens, and they have a couple of different white fabrics. They have their reference 4K fabric, which only claims to be a 1.0 gain. So if he wants the 1.3 gain of the Studio Tech 130, then they have a different material that they call Cinema White. And they claim that's a 1.2 gain, so not quite 1.3, but pretty darn similar.
Yeah. So what if he wants 2 screens, one 16 by 9 and the other 2.35 to 1? Neither one needs to be acoustically transparent. Dude, I am going to be, well, I mean, clearly he wants them both to be tab tensions and drop screens, right?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. Getting that in the same box, the same unit, is possible.
I mean, Elite has that.
It exists.
Yeah.
But I think you're just better off buying 2 different screens.
I would. And not only that, often the reason you want the smaller 16 by 9 is because that's your TV screen.
Yeah.
And then you have the larger, wider CinemaScope screen. That's your movie screen. I like the idea of having your 16 by 9 screen in this instance. Maybe it's an ambient light rejecting screen.
Yeah, so that you can do it during the day or whatever.
So that you can have some ambient light on when you're watching TV on the smaller image, and then when it goes to CinemaScope screen time, you go to the white one. So again, I would recommend Illunevision there. Illunevision has, in my opinion, the nicest ambient light rejecting screen. It's their Aurora screen. You can actually get it, not only can you get it roll down, which is a little bit unusual for some ambient light rejecting screens, but you can get it acoustically transparent if you want to. They have an acoustically transparent version, which is really rare for a roll down ambient light rejecting fabric. But Illunevision does it, so you might want to head over there.
Yeah. My only concern with this would be harmony setup issues. You know what I mean?
Oh, for 2 Illunevision screens?
Yeah. I think I might contact Seymour AV and say, get one from them and one from Illunevision, just so that the remote situation would work itself out.
Possibly. I mean, you can always do the hard switch, because they're all hard switch
right,
installable.
Sure, you could do that, but
it's not quite as slick as hitting the button on the remote.
Say, that's not sexy. That's not what I mean. He asks, how frequently do you need to replace a projector's lamp if you always want to maintain close to peak performance? The lifespan listed are supposedly how long it takes for the lamp to dim to 50%, but he's read reviews where it suggested that once the lamp dips to 25, it starts to get very noticeable, and it's probably time for a new lamp. What do we think? I think the person who wrote those words was trying to sell you lamps.
Well, now, I mean, you can see before it's 50% dimmer than it was. Oh, when it was
dude,
new.
If you A/B it, you can totally see it like way before that.
Yep.
But you're going to be sitting in this room watching this thing. You ain't going to notice nothing until like it gets real bad.
And if you have a projector that gives you a variable iris, you can start with the iris closed down, and as the lamp dims, you open the iris more, or you can switch from low lamp mode to high lamp mode to get some light back. There's things you can do along the way.
Yeah. No. If it's, I'll be honest. I mean, in my case, when that lamp explodes, that's when I replace it.
I mean, it does depend on the model of projector and the lamp, too, because not all of them have the same lifespan. Some of them claim much longer lifespans than others. So, yeah, it's pretty hard to just peg down a number and say, "This at this many hours, you change your lamp."
Well, you could say at this percentage of its stated lifespan, or whatever. But I'm telling you, man, I'm using it until it is super noticeable.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to keep using it until I notice it's an issue and I can't compensate for it in a satisfactory manner by just, I mean, sometimes even just the regular picture settings, right? You increase your brightness and contrast setting, and that gets you back some lumens too. So yeah, until I start noticing it, I'm probably sticking with the original lamp. I can't give you a hard number. There's no way to give a hard and fast number.
My wife is I think maybe the only reason she loves me is because I am super cheap. I am like just cheap to the point where she's like, you don't have to eat that. I'm like, the kids aren't eating it. We're not throwing it away. I'm gonna save it for later. I'm like, she's like, you're not gonna eat it later. I'm gonna eat it. You'll see. So,
close to peak performance. I mean, maybe we should just try to answer the question exactly as stated. Close to peak performance. Can we find a percentage number of the claimed lifespan then?
Not really, because it doesn't really matter. Most custom calibrators I know will recalibrate every year.
Right,
and that
which is entirely variable because some people watch way more than others.
Yeah, which their own lamps they will recalibrate every year, but all that's doing is correcting for the light dimming anyways.
Yep.
So I don't think there is a real. There isn't a hard and fast rule or even a soft and loose rule. It is just
whenever you notice it. Whenever you notice it, it's time.
And you can't fix it. That's when you do. All right, we're done. Who's left?
All right, we got plenty left, but that's okay. We will get to all questions. We do not leave anybody out on purpose. If you have not heard your name mentioned and you send a question, by all means send it again because we're not ignoring anybody. That's important for you to know.
I am. I'm ignoring lots of people.
So we have Max R, we have Grant A, who is in New Zealand. We have Chris H, Sean W, Jason P, and Armando M, who wrote to us on Facebook. And then I do also have questions from Infinite Gary, Nick B, John S, and David F. Those have all been received.
First podcast we've had in a while that we haven't had an Infinite Gary question.
I left it for next week. I do that sometimes.
All right. This is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. We want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com who support the podcast, especially John. If you'd like to be a supporter of the podcast financially, you can go to patreon.com/AVRant podcast.
AVRant podcast.
Or you can go to www.avrant.com and click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and send us a PayPal donation that way.
Yeah, so thank you to our 62 patrons, and John, thank you for being one of them.
If you have supported the podcast in any other way, told somebody about it, got a tattoo, got some artwork, anything, then feel free to let us know. We will mention you as one of our listeners of the week.
Mm-hmm.
All right. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andrew.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.